If you had told me a year ago that this was even a discussion, let alone a comparison video, I'd tell you not to inhale quite so deeply when you're stopped at gas stations. It would be preposterous to think that you'd choose a Z Flip 3 over an S21 Ultra, especially if you were a power user. But this year, it's a different conversation. Apple taught us that lesson in that I never in the past would recommend upgrading from something like a 10S to an 11 or 11 to 12. You could always wait that extra year and not really feel like you were missing out. But last year was an exception because I absolutely recommended that people upgrade to the 13 from the 12 because of the battery life. It's amazing how increased battery life and proper flagship battery level performance can catapult your device into a conversation where you're comparing it to the flagship device that you had earlier in the year. That's what we've got with the S22 Ultra and the Z Flip 4. Because I've seen a lot of comparisons between the S22 Ultra and the Fold 4. And I get it, and I might still do that, but more along the lines of comparing which user might prefer which device a little bit more. But here, these two devices, believe it or not, can actually attack both types of users that you'd have. They're both competing for the same user as long as you don't have some rather specific needs on some of these devices. And let's talk about that here. The big thing that's made the difference and kind of the genesis of why I'd even want to talk about this is the battery life on each of these devices. I still struggle with the S22 Ultra to get over that 5 hours of screen on time hump, no matter what I do. Turn off the 5G, that got me a little bit. They got me about the extra half hour, 45 minutes of screen on time. That's nice. Still can't get over 6 to save my life on this thing. This thing, the Z Flip 3, gets over 6, like it's its job, effortlessly. And that's what you want. You know, battery life and battery life where you're sweating are two different things. And people understand what I mean. Battery life that you could trust is battery life that you take out at the beginning of the day. You don't worry about it. You use it as much as you want. No limitations. Whatever apps you want. You could go out that night, not even look at it. You're kind of glancing up there, seeing how you're doing, but you're not sweating it. Then there's the 5 hours and 30 minutes where you're really sweating it because you're getting to that 5 hours in the last 10%. So that's a different experience. To me, that's not the same. If I have to worry about my battery life, then I already know it's a problem. The Z Flip 4, you don't have to worry about battery life. The S22 Ultra is big, it's bulky, it's heavy, it's a huge display. That's a con or a pro, depending on what your use case is. If you're somebody that absolutely needs to consume all of that content, if you're somebody who's a Netflix warrior on your phone, if you're somebody who's watching YouTube and Twitch nonstop, no matter where you happen to be, well, then you're going to enjoy the nice big display that the S22 Ultra provides you. No issues there, as long as you're close to a charger while you're doing those things. The Z Flip 4 is going to struggle there. It's not meant for that. It's not meant as a device that you just open up and watch stuff on it all day. Will you be okay with content on here? Sure. It's not the worst experience in the world. It's quite nice. The display is good. Nice high refresh rate. Nice resolution. All the rest of it. But it's just not something that you'd sit there and watch content on all day long. It's got that taller aspect ratio, the narrower aspect ratio. If you're a social media person, if you love TikTok, and let me just go ahead and pull it up here. If you love TikTok, you're going to have an issue. And this is a great example. For whatever reason, I don't know if there's a way to fix this. Maybe the way it is to kind of get it to letterbox. But TikTok is cut off a lot of times. And social media, some of the other apps, you're going to run into some problems where the aspect ratio just isn't quite right. Now, most things, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you're going to have no issue whatsoever. In fact, we'll pull up Instagram here and you can see it just kind of squishes it down a little bit, but it's still perfectly usable. You're still going to see the whole thing, the entire message. It's just some of those things, like those other apps and maybe some websites, will struggle a little bit with the aspect ratio here. But of course, over here, you get a nice wide angle here, nice wide display, lots of screen real estate. No issues whatsoever on social media. So if you are somebody who's just on TikTok a lot, because the other ones will work, but you'll know whether that's something that you need or not, because there's plenty of people who don't want anything to do with social media, but still want a flagship level performance. And that's where this device comes in, because not only do you get the better battery life on the Z Flip 4, you get it for cheaper. You could get it for $999. You got a trade-in, you could get it a little less. This still hovers around $1,200 depending. Brand new is what we're talking about here on these devices. And you get just as much functionality, power under the hood. In fact, you get a little bit more if you want to believe those differences in the Snapdragon devices between the regular Gen 8 Mark 1 and then the Plus model of that. I wouldn't go on that. You're not going to get, it's not performance that you're going to notice because it's mattering. But if you're not somebody who's big on gaming, if you're not somebody who's big on a lot of social media, if you're somebody that wants to use it, listen, to me, the cameras are comparable. You're never going to tell me that. I like the versatility of these cameras. You get the periscope zoom. You get some other things that you don't get here. Obviously, 2 lenses and the versatility of those extra wide angles and everything provides. You know whether you're one of those people or not. If you're one of those people that just absolutely has to have all these fancy photography photos, well, then the Z Flip 4 isn't going to be for you. But if you're somebody who wants the power and performance of a flagship, you want to be able to do all the higher-end stuff if you need to. If you need to play that game, if you need to do something on here, and you want it to last all day and then some, but at the same time, you want it to fit in your pocket comfortably, even with the case on, then the Z Flip 4 is something that you're going to want to take a look at, as opposed to an S22 Ultra. And I love my S22 Ultra. Don't get me wrong. I think this is every time I go back and turn this device on, it absolutely wows me. I love the design of it. Even if it's heavier, I understand. I love the fact that the S Pen is in the device, which apparently is the only device that Samsung, to their credit, I guess to their credit, even though it's to the detriment as far as the owners of the Z Fold series are concerned, have absolutely differentiated their devices. And it's something that needed to happen, because you were looking at, well, why would I buy this as opposed to this? Why would I buy a Note as opposed to just an S series? Why would I buy an S series when the Note's basically the same thing? Why would I buy a Fold when the Fold is just a bigger S22? There was a lot of that going on. So to me, here's how it breaks down. If you wanted that old school flagship experience with the pen in it, the S22 Ultra is for you. If you were an S user back in the day, an S9, an S10, then something like the Z Flip 4 might be where you land. That's kind of the, I don't want to say casual phone, but it's the flagship phone for people who want something stylish. They want the flagship power. They want the usability of it, but you get the technology of the future. You get folding, so you don't have to carry a big bulky thing around in your pocket. Fits in your palm, wireless charge, no issues. You go ahead, put it in a bag, put it in your pocket. It's a joy to carry this thing around. Now with the thinner hinge that they have on these devices this year, it absolutely doesn't protrude as much. It's great. So if you were somebody who never used the S Pen, what not overly concerned about TikTok and things like that, but you were an S user, you had an S8, you had an S7, this is more, I think, the spiritual successor of those devices rather than the S22 Ultra. And then, of course, if you want the big faux tablet, then you have stuff like the Fold 4 there. So that's, to me, is how the lineup now breaks down. So if you were somebody who absolutely loved your Note, you needed the pen, you needed the large display, well, then the S22 Ultra is still going to be for you. If you were somebody that said, you know what, I never really went in for that. I never went in for the Note device of the current year. I was always getting the S series device. Then the Z Flip 4 with that new and improved battery life, because you're getting the flagship specs along with it, because of the sturdiness of the hinge, now it's gotten to the point where these devices are durable. They can actually last a few years like your old S devices could. This might be where you land, and I don't think it would be a bad choice whatsoever, because with the exception of the size of the display, and really just the aspect ratio, because they're almost the same height, roughly, a little bit shorter. Yeah, they're almost the same height. You're giving up basically the width of that display, and if that doesn't matter to you, well, then take the advantage of the fact that you could do that with it and put it in your pocket. Let me know what you think down below. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.